Good morning, good afternoon, or perhaps even good evening. It's International Albinism Awareness Day 2022. Welcome to a worldwide celebration of albinism brought to you by the Global Albinism Alliance. My name is Oscar Duke, and I'm a person with albinism, a doctor and a broadcaster. I'm talking to you from London, England, where I live with my wife and 2 children. And today it's my very great pleasure to accompany you through a very rich programme. But before starting, let me introduce you to 2 key international albinism advocates who've kindly agreed to join me for the online celebration. From Zambia, we have the UN Independent Expert on Albinism, Malukaran Mitty Drummond. Good morning, Malukaran.
Good morning, Oscar. Thank you for having me. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you, wherever you may be. Happy International Albinism Awareness Day.
My second guest is speaking from Paris, France. He's in charge of the operations of the Global Albinism Alliance. Please welcome Antoine Glixen. Good morning, Antoine. Bonjour.
Bonjour, Oscar. Bonjour à tous. It's a real pleasure to be with you, with all of you today on this very, very special day.
Well, thank you both for being here today. Today, our programme includes videos from 26 organisations serving people with albinism around the world. We'll be entertained by several musical performances from very talented musicians with albinism. You'll also meet 4 Paralympians with albinism who will inspire us with their thoughts and experiences as elite athletes competing at the international level. Of course, I will have a conversation with you, Malukaran, about the first year of your mandate, and we'll also hear from you, Antoine, sharing some exciting news from the Global Albinism Alliance. So, let's get started with this worldwide celebration. There has been a steady increase in albinism organisations since the Tanzania Albinism Society began in 1978. Today, around 250 organisations exist to serve people with albinism around the globe, and it's very exciting to see that every year new organisations are being created to gather together and serve people with albinism in countries where, until today, this community was spread apart. Let's hear now from 3 albinism organisations that are just being launched in Asia and the Caribbean.
Hi,
I'm Andreas Kowat from Indonesia. A few years ago, I didn't know anything about albinism, even though I was born with albinism. However, after I met several other people with the condition, I started to better understand who I am. Now, our group meets regularly. We share our life experiences, our joys and sorrows. In Indonesia, albinism is generally very poorly understood. This makes it very hard for us to hold our rightful place in society. Therefore, we strive for our rights to equality and for justice so that we can all live a happy and fulfilling life and be accepted as we are, with all our uniqueness and particularities. This past year, we have actively worked at developing our connections with other albinism organizations from around the world to exchange information, experience, and best practices. Our organization, Albino Indonesia Family, is committed to help make the voice of albinism heard at the global level. Happy International Albinism Awareness Day and greetings from the Albino Indonesia Family.
Con el objetivo de unir los albinos de nuestro país, desde el más pequeño hasta
Our aim is to unite people with albinism in our country.
una comunidad
From the youngest to the oldest, we have created a community to support, guide, inform, and educate people with albinism, their families, and the general public, so as to improve our quality of life.
y de esta forma lograr una mejor calidad de vida en ellos. Se comienza en las redes
The first step was made on social networks, on Facebook and WhatsApp, through the creation of the group
y el
Community of Albinos of Cuba and the World,
miembro,
which has 52 members with this genetic condition.
rompiendo las barreras de la tecnología. Se decide
In order to break the barrier of technology, we have decided to organize a meeting for people from the provinces of Holguín and Las Tunas, as well as from some of their municipalities, where we spent time together and shared our life experiences, which emphasized the need to create an association for the well-being and integration of all that we will call the Eyes of Heaven.
ojos de cielo.
En calidad de albino y
As a person with albinism,
del mundo,
I'm quite knowledgeable about the world of albinism and visual impairment.
propongo
I propose to bring together all Dominicans with albinism.
para lo cual
In a few words,
¿Qué hemos hecho?
What have we already accomplished?
Haciendo y
What are we currently doing?
qué vamos a hacer.
And what are we aiming to achieve?
Hemos hecho hasta el día de hoy
Well, we have already managed to bring together a significant number of adults and children with albinism.
¿Qué estamos haciendo? Estamos ya
What are we currently doing?
dándonos
We are already getting organized, although still within an unofficial structure, but with meetings, minutes, projects, needs, and we are also preparing the legal documents for the next stage of development.
¿Dónde queremos llegar? ¿Cuál es el
What are we aiming for?
futuro?
What does our future look like?
A
The
mejorar
future for us is the improvement of the quality of life for all Dominicans through an association, a foundation,
ya estamos
for which we are already preparing the bylaws,
y pronto
and which soon will become a reality for all Dominicans with
la
albinism.
calidad de vida mejorarla de todos los dominicanos.
No celebration is complete without some music. So before we hear from more albinism associations across the world, let's continue the celebrations with our first musical interlude.
Hi, my name is Chris Den. I'm 30 years old and I live in Auckland, New Zealand. I'm a musician, a songwriter and a teacher, and like everyone else here today, I too have albinism. International Albinism Awareness Day, June 13th, is something new for me, but it's going on every calendar going forward. I'm so excited to celebrate my first one, and I can't wait to celebrate it further. I'm so thankful to the Global Albinism Alliance for reaching out to me, not only informing me about the day, but then inviting me and my band to perform here. The work they are doing is incredible, and it's so uplifting to see how many countries are coming together for our cause, for their causes. I didn't realize how hard the road had been for some. And I know that we all face different problems. For me, I think self-acceptance has been a thing, and being okay with who I am, which is why I chose the song When I Open. It's a very confident song, it's a very uplifting song, and I hope that you too enjoy it. Me and my band, Albi and the Wolves, are raising our voices. Thank you so much for having me. Please pursue your goals, follow your dreams. Look, you might have more work, harder work than others, but you can still do it. I, for one, am an advocate. So, best of luck. Thank you so much for having me here. Please enjoy the song.
And you see her as she enters the room. Can you feel her gaze upon you? Oh, I never thought I'd wind up in something so sweet. Now she lies with one eye open and one seldom closed. As her clothes, they start falling. We've only got one place left to go. One place left to go. And you feel her hand as it traces your back. Fingertips pull heartstrings from right to there. Oh, I never thought I'd wind up in something so mean. Now she lies with one eye open and one seldom closed. As her clothes, please start falling. We've only got one place left to go. One place place left to go. Well, she loves it, but now you're been in line to sell them clothes. There's your clothes, they start falling, clothing got one place there to go. Go, to go, one place left.
When you think about it, the global albinism community is hugely diverse. People with albinism come from all races, nations, ethnicities, and walks of life. The same is true for albinism associations. Whilst many groups do similar work, no two are the same. This next group of videos shows the diversity of what albinism organisations do, including education, research, advocacy, access to healthcare, and much more.
Hello everyone, my name is John Isaac Megila. I work as a country director of Shared Organization in Tanzania. At our organization, we work on three main areas whereby we facilitate what is called education programs, advocacy programs, and what is called community outreach programs. Over past 12 months, Shared Organization decided to build its own professional school whereby we wanted really to accommodate or to help or to facilitate vulnerable children, including children with albinism. The main key point is that we want to deliver a quality and professional education whereby it will equip these vulnerable children to be leaders of tomorrow and so that they can be able to change the world. We continue to produce the positive information, share the positive news, and God loves you so much. Thank you so much, and be blessed.
Hello, this is the HPS Network, and we're here to wish you all a happy Albinism Awareness Day. My name is Donna Appel, and we work really hard to serve the families who are dealing with Hermansky-Pudlak syndrome, a rare type of albinism. Our biggest achievement just happened, which was on June 10th. We had a presentation called the Patient-Focused Drug Development Meeting, and we'd love you to go on our website, www.hpsnetwork.org, and watch our presentation of a day in the life of HPS people. Carmen?
Y aunque en Puerto Rico HPS es la forma más común de albinismo, HPS está alrededor del mundo. Pero en Puerto Rico estamos tratando de promover un proyecto de ley 247, el cual va a proteger la salud y proveer mejor servicio de salud a las personas con albinismo y con HPS. Gracias.
Thank you.
Hello to the global albinism community. My name is Pamela Kapushishi. I am an activist for the rights of persons with albinism and the president of the first organization in Benin for people with albinism called NGO Valeurs Albinos. I would like to share with you a very nice project that the NGO Valeurs Albinos has trialed recently, and that is the production of poultry. We have produced a certain number of poultry that we have given to people with albinism, who have in turn produced them on a larger scale, which has then helped them become self-reliant. And with that, we urge the UN independent expert to really think about empowering people with albinism for their well-being. And with that, I say Happy International Albinism Awareness Day to everyone. Good day, my name is Anja Krings, and I am the president of the NOAA Albinism Support Group of Germany. Our German-speaking neighbors from Austria and Switzerland are also associated with our organization. Our primary focus, as the name of the organization suggests, is to provide support for affected people and their relatives. The exchange of experience and information both within our organization as well as with the general public is an important part of this work. Local and regional gatherings, events, as well as a multi-day conference organized by us every 2 years form the framework for this. The nice thing about our work is that through the events, meetings, and recreational activities, exchange happens, and oftentimes, friendships form.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Antoine Bessery.
Hello, my name is Antoine Bessery, and in October 2021, I went to the Democratic Republic of Congo to make a documentary about albinism. People say that I am not a beautiful creature. But why say that? Unlike other countries like Tanzania that regularly make headlines for cases of violence against people with albinism, the situation in the DRC is much less documented and publicized. The fight against skin cancer is an enormous task. There was a group of people who came to kidnap me or kill me, to steal my corpse. When we opened the bag with the policeman, it was the head of an albino. During my stay, I had the opportunity to meet many people committed to the cause of people with albinism. On October 19th and 20th, 2021, they all met in Kinshasa for the first Pan-African Conference on Albinism. Together with representatives of the African Union member countries, international agencies, and civil society organizations, their objective was to assess the situation of people with albinism in Africa and to submit a roadmap to the member states to be adopted in order to guarantee access for persons with albinism to a life with dignity. It remains to be seen if, beyond the announcement effect, the African states will be able to respect their commitments.
Last August, Maluka Ann Mitty-Drummond became the United Nations independent expert on the enjoyment of human rights by persons with albinism. Ms. Mitty-Drummond has worked in the area of human rights for almost 20 years. She holds a Bachelor of Law, an LLM in International Law, and a Master of Science degree in Development Management. Ms. Mitty-Drummond has worked as the Deputy Director and Senior Programme Lawyer for International Advocacy at the International Bar Association's Human Rights Institute, as the Regional Advocacy Director at the Southern Africa Litigation Centre, and as the researcher for Portuguese and Spanish-speaking African countries at Amnesty International, amongst others. Just before assuming her UN mandate, Ms. Mitty-Drummond has worked as a senior international human rights consultant, including on legal matters for her predecessor, Ms. Ike Ero. We are very honoured to have you with us today, Maluka Ann. Before I start by asking you about your first year of the mandate, I have a question that I'm sure will be in many people's minds. You're not a person with albinism yourself, but do you have any personal connections with albinism?
Thanks again for having me, Oscar. That's a question that I'm used to. No, I don't have any family members with albinism, but I would say my personal connections are all the people in the various albinism organizations that I work with and have worked with.
And the UN mandate on albinism was opened in 2015 and it's been renewed twice in 2018 and 2021. Does that mean that despite all of the work done by your predecessor, the situation for human rights of people with albinism around the world is not improving?
No, I wouldn't say that. The UN has over 50 mandates, and some, like those for torture and religion, have been established since the 80s, and they have been renewed about 8 to 10 times. So 2 renewals aren't that bad. The thing is, human rights work takes a long time, and progress can be done. It can be small, and it's done in small steps. So no, there has been improvement, but there is still a lot that needs to be done.
And I imagine whilst trying to get these improvements in place, you get a lot of different requests from individuals and albinism organisations all around the world. Could you give us an idea of a common request that's easy for you to address and one that's perhaps more difficult?
So difficult requests, funding. I receive a number of requests for funding from organizations for their work or their projects, and I'm unable to help with these requests, unfortunately, as my mandate does not have resources. I wouldn't say that there's actually an easy request per se, but a request that I can address would be like contributions, requests for me to contribute to laws and policies or to make comments to laws and policies, as well as to intervene where there's been kind of a violation or a concern regarding albinism. And this I can do depending on the amount of information that I receive.
So key data is really important. And this year, the theme chosen for International Albinism Awareness Day is United in Making Our Voice Heard. Can you tell us why this was chosen and the ideas and concepts that are reflected within the theme?
Yes, thanks. I think, first of all, the theme was chosen to amplify the voices and the visibility of persons with albinism in all areas of life, because we recognize that including the voices of persons with albinism is essential to ensure equality. It is also chosen to celebrate and highlight how groups of persons with albinism and individuals increase the visibility of persons with albinism. And lastly, to just encourage and celebrate unity among groups of persons with albinism.
And in terms of increasing that visibility, how do you think that International Albinism Awareness Day can contribute to changing the situation of people with albinism around the world?
So first and foremost, it can bring about greater awareness about albinism and the human rights concerns related to albinism. So people hear about International Albinism Awareness Day and they want to know why we have it. And so this provides an opportunity to educate the public. It can also generate a bit of more public outcry and political will to some extent to respond to these concerns and the situation. And it's also a way of generating resources for the cause. So especially when government and funders hear the stories of what is being done and what can be achieved, then they might be more willing to provide more resources. And finally, it's a day to unify groups and just showcase the achievements of those groups working around the world on these issues.
And whilst we hopefully have the world's attention on this particular day, is there a message that you'd like to send to the general public?
Yes, indeed. So for the general public, simply put, it's just for us, for the general public to listen to the voices of persons with albinism and to make sure that in all discussions they consider persons with albinism and include persons with albinism. And for albinism groups, since we're talking about the theme of unity, I'd like to encourage unity. We can have different opinions and viewpoints as well as disagreements, but we need to find strength in our differences and to unite to make a difference.
And to help that unity, do you have any message of hope that you could share with the global albinism community?
Sometimes it feels like things are not changing or that they are taking too long to change. But I'd just like to encourage everyone that they are changing, that things are changing, that we have laws and policies being developed all over the world, specifically focusing on persons with albinism. We have countries that are allocating specific budgets to persons with albinism, and there are persons with albinism being included in national census. In the past, countries did not even know how many people with albinism they had in their population, and now they're counting persons with albinism. So persons with albinism are becoming more visible. The health needs of persons with albinism are being provided for in many countries, which wasn't happening in the past. Yes, there's still attacks, and this can be discouraging, but at the same time, we're also seeing justice for these attacks in some countries. So most recently, for example, a court in Malawi sentenced 3 men to 155 years in prison for the killing of a person with albinism. So basically, my message is, let's not be discouraged. Progress is slow, but organizations of persons with albinism are making a difference all over the world. And I just want to congratulate you all for your work and to encourage you.
Thank you so much, Muligran. We wish you every continued success with your mandate. Rufaro Chinyanga is a spoken word poet from Zimbabwe. He's also an activist, a lawyer, and a person with albinism. He is here today to share a very personal piece that explores what it means for him to have albinism.
Hello, my name is Rufaro Martin Chinyanga. I'm 28 years old. I am a human rights activist for persons living with albinism, and I am a spoken word artist. And I'm so glad to be joining you, my friends all over the world, in celebrating International Albinism Awareness Day. For myself, living with albinism in Africa has been a great challenge, but I've managed to use the power of words and the talent that God gave me through poetry and music to advocate and champion the rights of persons living with albinism here in Africa. As we celebrate this day, let us call to mind the hundreds that have been killed and mutilated in sub-Saharan Africa due to this condition. Albinism in Southern Africa and sub-Saharan Africa in general is viewed as something that is unacceptable, something that is mystical, something that is some form of spiritual or voodoo power. So when someone is born with this condition, they are alienated, discriminated, and segregated by the communities in which they live in, to the point that some are killed and murdered and mutilated for their body parts so that they can be used for money-making rituals, which is not true. So I've managed to use the power of spoken word as I tell my story of my upbringing and the upbringing of persons with albinism here in Zimbabwe and Africa through this poem which I wrote, which is called White Yet Black. Here I try and explain that a person with albinism here in Africa is viewed as a white person, but in essence they are black. So that's why I wrote this piece, White Yet Black. So it explains this whole narrative that I am a person who is white by skin, but I am very much black because of my African features, because of the heritage. My parents are black. So, but this then stands out. This is what makes us stand out in Africa, where we've got 1.5 billion people who are predominantly Africans. So you tend to see when you're white, you stand out. So this is what I try to explain in my poem. And I hope you understand and you get to share it with friends and families as we try to advocate and show that albinism is beautiful. Thank you so much. Happy Albinism Day.
Rufus, poetry to the world, white yet black. Here we go. White yet black I am and I stand to be, a symbol of curses to my African people, a ghost, a pig, a white man without a farm, a product of harlotry that makes it all contradictory, just pondering about it silently. But I'm just simply white yet black. Listen up you African minds and even the Caucasians giving ear. It's just a genetic condition, nothing else. Skin white, hair yellow, a sculpture stolen from heaven, Leonardo da Vinci perfection. But as I'm walking down these streets of dust and color, lights and shade, gold and plastics, echoes in the air with men chasing the doll and children running from crimes and girls getting pregnant, boys becoming fathers, mothers dying from AIDS with pastors and priests casting away demons and girls of the night dancing for the coin. I hear these voices. You ghost, you pig, you half-caste. And I go home with my heart in my hands and I say, Mother, tell me the truth. Did you have an affair with a white man? And she looks at me with eyes filled with love and she says, my son, you're just white yet black. But I say, but mother, I'm persecuted like the Messiah, segregated like blind Bartimaeus, ignored and abandoned in pitch darkness, imprisoned psychologically, murdered practically, ridiculed theoretically. Now what does this all add up to mathematically? And she looks at me with eyes filled with love and she says, my son, even if they murder you, even if they segregate you, even if they hide you, even if they deny you love, you're just white yet black, a blessing to the world, a symbol of God's glory, a radiation of paradise. It's so funny that one day when we all die, it will be a shock when we go to heaven to find out that even Jesus and the angels are just white yet Rufus, Albano and proud, poets to the world.
That was great, Rufaro. Your poetry is really thought-provoking. Advocacy sits at the core of the work done by albinism organisations. This next group of videos demonstrates how the worldwide albinism community is united in having our voices heard.
The National Collective of People with Albinism, Brazil. In April 2021, APALBA met with several other groups of persons with albinism from Brazil to send a request to the Ministry of Health to start a dialogue about public policies. This marked the birth of the National Collective of People with Albinism in Brazil. The negotiation with the ministry resulted in a proposal for public policies about integral health care for persons with albinism. In October of 2021, the Collective of People with Albinism of Brazil presented this proposal to the National Health Council.
Ao Conselho Nacional de Saúde.
In July of the same year, we participated in a public hearing at the Commission for the Rights of People with Disabilities at the House of Representatives.
Dessa forma,
Through this work, the National Collective of People with Albinism strengthens our Brazilian community and intensifies our fight. Nothing above us, without us.
sem nós.
More than 50 people with albinism and without albinism have contributed to saving the lives of women during childbirth, children who were anemic from malaria, and victims of accidents. But above all, proving that people with or without albinism all have the same blood. Among our association's latest achievements, I can mention our participation in the first Pan-African Conference on Albinism, held in the DRC in October 2021, where the President of the African Union was present for the Declaration of Kinshasa on the rights of people with albinism. Our association has also been working on raising awareness of albinism, as well as fighting against the impacts of climate change and of the COVID-19 pandemic on our community. An important development for our association was the registration of 46 new members in the last 3 months, 60% of whom are children and mostly babies under the age of 2. I would also like to emphasize the involvement of the community in our activities and in the protection of people with albinism. AFAB, my difference, my originality.
Hello, I'm Jake Epele. I'm the founder CEO of the Albino Foundation, the convener of Disability Inclusion Nigeria, and the president of Albinism Association of Nigeria. Here in Albino Foundation, we're proud of the work we do, especially the work that concerns the employability of persons with disability. We have scaled up this project and had partnered with the Nigerian Labour Congress to start the process of a national policy on the employability of persons with disability. This process starts with a guideline for public and private sector to know what to do in order to accommodate persons with disability in their various employment and entities. This is one project that we're proud of, and this project is coming from Nigeria, where you have the Albino Foundation.
Hi everybody, this is Gift Sakala from Zambia, the chairperson of Albinism Task Force Team. The albinism community in Zambia have come together and we have formed a union, I'll call it an umbrella organization which we're calling Zambia Albinism Task Force Team. Under Albinism Task Force Team, it's just born last year in 2021. And so far, so good. We had 2 great activities that we undertaken. We had the leadership training, which was supported by under the same sun. We also had a capacity team building, which was supported under Amnesty. Zambia Albinism Task Force Team is looking forward to draft its own action plan and working together hand in hand with albinism DPOs, and we're looking forward to do great together.
The African Albinism Network was established in February 2021. It is a consortium of organizations working to promote, through human rights advocacy, the dignity and welfare of persons with albinism and their families. The network is a regional entity committed to international advocacy on the rights of persons with albinism in Africa. by developing the capacity of organizations representing persons with albinism in Africa. And here are a few highlights of our achievements in the last 18 months. In less than 1 year, we have produced and submitted 17 advocacy reports to the African Union and the United Nations on the rights of persons with albinism. These have covered 12 countries and 13 albinism groups. On International Women's Day, we organized a panel discussion featuring women with albinism from East, West, and Southern Africa. On March 15, 2022, we presented a video statement to the UN Human Rights Council in response to the report from the UN experts on albinism. Follow us on all social media platforms at African Albinism Network. Visit our website at www.africanalbinismnetwork.org.
These past 12 months have seen two major international sporting events where the albinism community was very well represented: the Summer and Winter Paralympic Games. Athletic events for people with disabilities can be traced back to post-World War II England. These contests, known by various names, including the World Wheelchair Games, gave rise to the Paralympic Games. Rome was the site of the first official Summer Paralympic Games in 1960. The first Winter Paralympic Games were held in Sweden in 1976. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the 2020 Summer Paralympic Games were postponed to August 2021. 40 athletes with albinism representing 17 countries participated in these games held in Tokyo, Japan. They competed in many different sports: short distance running, long jump, cycling, judo, goalball, swimming and triathlon. Altogether, the albinism team earned 18 medals, 4 gold, 9 silver and 5 bronze. Last March, Beijing, China welcomed over 650 para-athletes from 49 countries to the 2022 Winter Paralympic Games. There, the albinism team was represented by a single but outstanding athlete, the Italian alpine skier Martina Vosa. Determination, equality, inspiration and courage. These are the core values at the heart of the Paralympics. We're lucky today to have with us 4 people with albinism, elite athletes who've participated in the Tokyo and Beijing Paralympic Games. First, let's meet Alex Portal. Alex lives in the suburbs of Paris and has ocular albinism. He started swimming at the age of 5. Today, Alex is 20 years old and studying physics and chemistry. Above all, he won 2 medals, a silver and a bronze one, at the Tokyo Paralympics Games. Bonjour, Alex.
Salut. Bonjour, Oscar.
So let's get to it. What's brought you to swimming, Alex, and what's motivated you to become an elite athlete?
What motivated me to take up swimming was when I was about 5 years old. My sister was also swimming, and so I wanted to take it up after having tried several sports, and I like this one. I continued to train more and more and compete, and I enjoyed it just as much. And then the fact that I wanted to be a high-level sportsman, I had this desire with the London Games in 2012, which gave me the desire, the dream to participate in the Games and to get as many medals as possible at the international level.
All right, thank you, Alex. Let's now head to Italy and meet with our second athlete, alpine skier Martina Voza. Martina is 18 years old and lives in northern Italy at the foot of the Alps on the border with Slovenia. Martina started skiing at the age of 5 and over the past few months has competed in both the World Championships and the Paralympic Games. Martina, I've heard that you didn't fall in love with alpine skiing right away, so why did you continue, and isn't alpine skiing a little bit scary for a visually impaired person?
Hello, Oscar. It's true. When I was little, I didn't like skiing very much. But over the years, I realized that this was the sport I like and that I wanted to achieve my goal, which is to get a medal at the Paralympic Games. And I continued because my coach tried to pass on to me his passion, and I eventually convinced myself that this is a beautiful sport. And even though I suffer from albinism and therefore photophobia, I still manage to ski very well thanks to my guide.
That's very impressive. Congratulations. Tell me, Martina, what role did your parents play in your sports career? Do they always support you? Presumably they've been terrified watching you go down the ski slope on occasion.
My parents have always played a very important role in my career. They have always supported me all these years. And yes, they are afraid at times, but they know that it is very important for me to ski, so they agree with me.
Your parents must be very proud of you, Martina. Now let's continue with another champion of the albinism community, Monica Munga from Zambia. Monica is a short distance runner competing in 200 and 400 meter races. She's currently a student teacher, teaching home economics in special education. She will turn 23 in August and was the only Paralympian representing Zambia at Tokyo 2020. Hi, Monica.
Hi, Oscar. I'm glad to be interviewed by you people.
Monica, practicing a sport is one thing, but running at the Paralympics is a completely different story. What drives you to compete at the elite level?
What drives me to participate on international is determination, hard work, and to know that I'm also a human being and I can also do what my friends are doing, and I can also become the world champion. My aim is to become the world champion as my friends are now.
With that attitude and motivation, I'm sure you will, Monica. Now, Alex, could you tell us what role sport has played in your life, and in particular, if it's helped you in any way to cope with albinism?
So, yes, sport has helped me a lot in my life because I think it helped me be more organized and mature more quickly. And it also helped me a lot, for example, with some discrimination at school, especially with some professors and teachers. And as a result, sport has allowed me to have a path that I like. And even with my albinism, I can blossom in it. So I'm really happy that I have fewer barriers, especially in swimming, than on solid ground, for example.
I see, Alex. Now let's talk about limitations. For some people, the visual impairment due to albinism is seen as a limiting factor. Can you tell us about this and how you used to perceive this as a child and how you now perhaps perceive it today?
So yes, I think there are obviously limitations related to this disability, otherwise it wouldn't be called that. And I think that there are limitations, for example, the driver's license. I'm not allowed to get it. Certain jobs that might be more difficult than others to do, or even accommodations that I have to have on a daily basis for my studies or in my everyday life. And I think that sports, or even trying to exceed one's limits via other solutions than people who don't have this disability, I think that these are solutions that can be found. And I think that it allows us to work on other things that most people don't have the chance to work on with their bodies or their perspectives on solutions and issues.
Really interesting. Thank you, Alex. Our final athlete today is the judoka Tiago Marques. Tiago grew up in the north of Brazil under the harsh climate of the state of Para, where he started playing judo at the age of 12. Now, at age 23, Tiago competed in the Tokyo Paralympic Games and is among the top international athletes in the sport. Bom dia, Tiago.
Hola, Oscar. Hello to all albinos from all over the world.
Tiago, can you tell us what role judo's had in your life and if it's helped you in any way in dealing with the different challenges of albinism?
I didn't understand what it was to be an albino, what it was to be a person with a disability when I was very young. And then judo came into my life. Through judo, I understood. I learned how to deal with people, how to make friends, and to include myself again in society.
All important life lessons, I'm sure. Tiago, now you've become a well-known international athlete. Do you think this gives you a certain responsibility, as a role to play with regards to the albinism community?
Both for people with albinism and for people with disabilities, those of us in sport, those of us who are there in person, those of us who are given a certain stage when we go to compete, we have the responsibility to show that everyone is capable, that everyone with or without disabilities, whatever the limitation may be. Through sport, I learned this, I lived this, and I can say clearly with all certainty that through sports, we don't have any limitations.
Anything else you'd like to add, Tiago?
Yes, Oscar. I would like to share that sport takes away all and any limitation, be it for a person with albinism or for someone with any kind of disability or deficit. Within these 4 lines, within the framework of sports, within the swimming pools, there is no limitation. Sport takes away all of our limitations. I very much recommend everyone to participate in sport, and particularly my sport, judo.
That's a great point, Diego, and it fits really nicely with the theme of International Albinism Awareness Day this year. Athletes with albinism speak through their accomplishments in sports. You show the world that people with albinism are capable and should be full members of society. Moving on then, what advice do you have for young athletes with albinism and their parents based on your experience? Should we start with you, Monica?
Disability is not inability. Let sport come from your inner heart. Don't be forced by your parents to go and join sport, because if you don't put your heart in sport, you will not even achieve anything because you're being forced by your parents. And parents, encourage your friends to identify their talents and being exposed and to learn new things and to gain self-esteem and to learn new things from their friends.
And how about you, Diego? Any advice to share?
For both children and parents, I recommend sports very much. Through sport, I gained my freedom, my inclusion back into society. And I would also like to tell the parents that they don't need to overprotect their children like some do. Many times, we are overprotected by society. I hear parents and families saying things like, look, he has albinism, he doesn't see very well. I won't let him do this, I won't let him do that. But we need that freedom. We need to throw ourselves into the world.
Throw ourselves into the world. I love that. Thank you, Diego. Martina, what do you think?
To young people with albinism, my advice is to start playing a sport. The one that they like best. Because it helps you overcome many difficulties. While for parents, it lets their children be free and try to make them as independent as possible.
And Alex, do you have anything to add?
So I think you have to try to test, to try to push your child to do a lot of things, a lot of activities that he likes and that would allow him to be fulfilled. Maybe it'll be a sport, maybe it'll be a hobby other than sports, but something that can make him feel fulfilled and in which he can have fun. I think that's important. I've tried a lot of sports, a lot of activities that I liked or disliked, and I never put any limits on that, and I don't think we should put any limits on that because of our disability.
Justification du handicap.
Now let's go back to the Paralympic Games. What's your most memorable moment of the Beijing Games?
The most beautiful and magical moment of the Games was definitely the opening ceremony. Because it was a unique experience and emotion that I will carry inside myself forever.
Unique indeed. Alex, any great memories kept from Tokyo?
Personally, my greatest memory, my greatest dose of emotion was the podium, of course. But also, and above all, the moment when I entered the swimming pool for the first time, which is super quiet for the cameras and everything is decorated. And then I realized that I'm stepping into my dream and that this dream is becoming reality and that I'm going to give it my all and enjoy every bit of it.
I can only imagine how absolutely incredible that must have been. So thanks very much to Monica, Alex, Diego and Martina. Your determination, dedication and hard work inspire us all. You are our sports heroes. Let's now celebrate other determined, dedicated and hard-working people. Here is what some of the albinism organisations have been up to over the last year.
Hello everyone, my name is Karen Bly, and in July of 2021, NOAA hired me as their new executive director. As things slowly return to normal, NOAA continues to help people with albinism and their families find acceptance, support, and fellowship by staying connected and being together. NOAA Virtual Connections allow members of the albinism community to meet online in a safe, comfortable setting while sharing information and experiences with their peers. NOAA Family Camp was our first in-person event since the pandemic began. At camp, children with albinism and their families share in fun-filled activities like adaptive sports, crafts, campfires, and swimming. Adults with albinism gathered for a weekend in Memphis to enjoy time with each other while exploring the city. NOAA is excited to have our community together again as we head to Orlando, Florida in July of 22 for the 19th NOAA National Conference. Please join me and our fellow members of the Global Albinism Alliance as we stand united in making our voice heard to celebrate International Albinism Awareness Day 2022.
Hello to everyone from Albinism. We are an Italian organization. Here is an overview of what our association has recently done. We collaborated on a research project entitled Vision and Brain. We established partnerships with editors and sports associations to promote inclusion in sport. And finally, 2 other projects we care a lot about will be discussed by those involved in them. Thanks to the contribution of Albinit, I had the opportunity to take part in the Design for All strategy course on inclusive planning at Politecnico of Milan. This program benefited me in my professional development. The Contrasti project is essentially based on black and white photos to show that contrasts in our lives, particularly in the lives of those with albinism, are frequent. This project also aims to demonstrate that we have the resources to overcome them in the best way possible.
E vuole altrettanto dimostrare che comunque dentro di noi ci sono le risorse per poterli superare nel miglior modo possibile.
Hello, I'm Elif from the Albinism Association of Turkey. Our biggest achievement this past year was to convince our government to make sunscreen reimbursable for persons with albinism when purchased with a prescription. Unfortunately, part of the cost still needs to be covered by people with albinism. This reimbursement system is very complicated. We continue our advocacy to increase the level of reimbursement and create a user-friendly system. Our second main achievement this year was to secure an important grant from the European Union. Thanks to this grant, we could conduct different activities. We worked on increasing our visibility. We created sponsored ads on social media. We had live-streamed events. We created an animated film that explains what albinism is, as well as addresses the issue of bullying. Today, the biggest strength of our association has been our ability to use social media efficiently, thus allowing us to reach many families affected by albinism, as well as the general public who usually have never heard about albinism. I wish you a happy International Albinism Awareness Day.
En el año 2021, la Fundación Nacional de Albinismo, Simplemente Amigos de la República.
In 2021, the National Albinism Foundation, Simplemente Amigos from Argentina, was awarded a gold certification for its high level of solidarity and transparency by the Argentinian Federation of Foundations. To meet the requirements of the certification, the organization had to submit specific documentation proving its compliance with the standards of efficiency and collaboration. Thanks to the certification, our organization was recognized as an institution that advocates in a transparent manner for the rights of people. The certification was awarded during a celebration gala where the famous model Valeria Mazza, sponsor of the event, showed high interest in learning more about the world of albinism and was particularly attentive towards what is happening in Africa.
Fundación Nacional de Albinismo, Simplemente Amigos.
Hola a todos, soy Bea, miembro de ALBA, la Asociación Española para la Ayuda a Personas con Albinismo, y soy miembro desde que nací. En esta asociación nos preocupamos mucho por dar a conocer y difundir esta condición.
Hi everyone, my name is Beatriz. I have been a member of ALBA, the Spanish Association in support of people with albinism since I was born. Our association is very active and is very concerned about defending and raising awareness about our condition. In the last 18 months, in spite of the difficulties caused by the pandemic, we have been able to hold 2 conferences, one online and one partially in person. The latter brought together teenagers and adults to discuss and set goals and actions for the board of the association. This has led to the development of a new strategic plan as well as defining new modes of communication amongst our members. We also had a summer camp for children and teens where we got to know each other better, share experiences, and above all, experience unforgettable moments. 2 Solidarity Prizes have been awarded by ALBA to support humanitarian projects in Africa. Grants have been given to members of the association in order for them to acquire technological devices. ALBA knows that communicating and raising awareness is essential to increasing the visibility of our condition. For this reason, we have defined a new communication strategy on social media while continuing to work with newspapers, television, and radio. Some of our publications are even available in audiobook format. European projects have finally been resumed, allowing us to finish some of them, continue others, and start new ones. Collaborating with the Global Albinism Alliance is a great opportunity to join forces for and with people with albinism. Thank you for the opportunity to be united in making our voice heard.
Por y para las personas con albinismo. Gracias por darnos la oportunidad de unirnos y hacer escuchar nuestra voz.
It's so wonderful to see just how much is going on around the world. And this is just a sample of the many, many organisations improving the lives of people with albinism all around our planet. Now it's time to hear from the Global Albinism Alliance. Antoine, I'm sure you have lots to say, so what's been going on in the last year?
That is very true, Oscar. A lot has been going on this past 12 months. But before sharing an overview of what our team has managed to accomplish since last June, let me briefly go back to the beginning of the GAA project. I assume that some of you in the audience might not be totally familiar with this story. So, in January of 2020, Ike Hero, the former UN expert on albinism, Mike McGowan, who was then the executive director of NOAA, and myself organized a meeting in Paris where about 30 albinism organization leaders coming from all regions of the world discussed the idea to form a global alliance for albinism. As a result, it was decided to launch the project and to start with a pilot phase. During that pilot phase, our team conducted an extensive consultation of albinism organizations from around the world to get to know them better and to find out what their expectations were with regard to the mission and the functions of a global alliance. This is something that was already presented during last year's celebrations of June 13th. During this past 12 months, we have worked on different activities in parallel. First of all, we continued with our consultations, and we focused in particular on regional federations. In total, we have interviewed or exchanged with 8 different organizations operating in Africa, Europe, Latin America, and North America. We have developed our collaboration with the new UN expert, Muluka and Mitty Drummond. One example of joint activity are several live chats that we have held online in different languages between January and April of this year. With the UN expert, we have also worked at raising awareness at the global level of recent attacks on people with albinism that happened in Madagascar. This past winter, we formed a scientific advisory committee with 16 international albinism experts. The first task of this group is to support the Alliance in the organization of ISCA 2022, which is an international scientific conference on albinism that will be held online in November of this year. I mentioned earlier that our project started with a pilot phase. This pilot phase ended at the beginning of this year, and we are now going through a year of transition that will lead to the creation of the formal alliance. Based on the information gathered and on the experience gained during the pilot phase, we have written a report with recommendations on key principles for the future alliance, including a vision statement, a mission statement, and a list of functions. The report also includes a proposal of structure with a board and a staff. The Global Albinism Alliance will be an organization of organizations. The report suggests different categories of members so that every organization willing to join can find its place within the Alliance. We propose that the Alliance work on three main pillars. First, support to members. Second, advocacy and education. And third, research and information dissemination. This pilot report will be officially released online today or tomorrow. It has been seen as a proposal and not as a list of decisions. So we will be more than happy to receive your feedback. As you can see, if you've been following us since 2020, the development process of the Alliance is not so short. Of course, this can be explained by the fact that our resources are limited, but this can also be explained by our desire, the desire of our team to do things the right way and to take into account the many inputs coming from the community that we intend to represent. Our goal is to organize our first annual general meeting at the beginning of 2023 and to hold the election of the first board of the Alliance at that same time. This means that we will open the membership process in the next few months. Today, we know of more than 250 organizations serving people with albinism around the world. And we hope that most, if not all of them, will become members of the Alliance in 2023. Thank you.
Thank you, Antoine. It's so exciting to see that the GAA is making such great progress, and we look forward to the next steps. One area where it is so important to have our voices heard is the human right to access healthcare. The world needs to know that albinism is not just a look. People with albinism have significant issues with vision and some protection to deal with, not to mention the additional health issues specific to Hermansky-Pudlak syndrome and the other syndromic forms of albinism. Committed and talented scientists and researchers, as well as medical clinicians, work to understand the physical aspects of albinism. The next set of videos illustrates how some albinism organisations, through their collaboration with doctors and researchers, contribute to expanding our knowledge of albinism and improving access to healthcare.
Hello everyone. Among Jeune Espoir's main functions, promoting research on albinism has been a major priority since the creation of our association in 1995. We support research on improving diagnosis, medical management, and quality of care for persons with albinism throughout their lives. Since 2006, Jeune Espoir holds an annual call for research projects, and over the span of 15 years, we have distributed approximately 450,000 euros. This amount comes almost exclusively from donations from Jeune Espoir members, friends, and family. Since the creation of Jeune Espoir, 8 different laboratories have been supported in the fields of genetics, dermatology, vision development, and syndromic forms of albinism. 30 scientific papers have been published by these different labs, thus contributing to the expansion of knowledge on albinism worldwide. And thanks to our support, 2 new albinism genes have been discovered in 2020, the OCA8 and the HPS11 genes. In addition, more than 2,000 genetic diagnoses have been made, which corresponds to the largest cohort in the world and has led to a better understanding of albinism in France and in many other countries. Finally, many collaborations have been established between French research teams and the main international teams working on albinism. While for many years we were the only ones supporting research on albinism in France, today we are no longer alone. Indeed, in 2021, the French National Research Agency gave 430,000 euros to albinism research. This raises big hopes for new and important advances. Hi, I'm Guan Lu from the Chinese Organization for Albinism. Since June 2020, we have been collaborating with Chinese geneticists and physicians to initiate a project on whole exome sequencing for albinism. So far, free genetic testing has been provided to more than 1,000 families with albinism. We also work with ophthalmologists and hospitals in various regions to set up specialized outpatient services for those with albinism. In 2021, more than 200 persons have had priority access to subsidized ophthalmology services. Our organization has set up discussion groups on social networks like WeChat and TikTok. These are broken down into regional groups as well as professional groups, including topics such as traditional Chinese massage, audio anchor, social work, and psychology. There are also short videos to better provide diverse communication and support for the albinism communities. Hi everyone! Corporación Albinos Chile is very happy to participate in this celebration of International Albinism Awareness Day.
de concientización sobre el albinismo.
Today, we are very proud to tell you about a major project our organization has been actively involved in since last year.
La corporación está colaborando de forma activa desde el año pasado y
This project represents a real breakthrough in research on our genetic condition.
nuestra condición genética.
Since 2021, the genetics unit of the prestigious University of Chile has been conducting a study entitled Phenotypic and Genotypic Characterization of the Population of People with Albinism of Chile.
Albina de Chile, el cual representa
This is the first formal study conducted in our country on people with albinism.
personas con albinismo.
This study not only seeks to detail the physical and sociocultural profile of people with albinism, but it also proposes a possible relationship between albinism and sleep disorders, which, if confirmed, would undoubtedly be a great contribution to understanding other factors that could be interacting with our genetic condition.
Relacionarse con nuestra condición genética.
As we await the results of this study, we send you a big hug from Chile on this special day. Hi, we are the Extension Project People with Albinism and the Right to Health, hosted by the Ana Nery School of Nursing at the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro. University extension projects include and are articulated around teaching, research, and extension. They promote transformation-targeted interactions between the university and other sectors of society. Our mission is to produce, systemize, and disseminate knowledge and information about albinism. In 2021, we worked on 3 different research subjects: social networks, sunscreens, and an image database. This work led to the organization of the first International Symposium of Extension Projects on Albinism. The proceedings of this conference, along with the videos with all the presentations, were published after the event. In partnership with the project Amor à Pele, we all worked on the creation of a booklet entitled I Was Born Without Melanin, How Come? We also developed our collaboration with several other organizations, such as APALBA, the UN, and the Brazilian Legislative Assembly. And where do we share all this information? On our website, Instagram, and Facebook pages. Thank you very much for your attention.
Our final set of videos shows the tremendous efforts by albinism organisations to prevent and treat the damaging effects of the sun on people with albinism.
ALBA, the Association for Wellbeing of People with Albinism, gathers together a membership of 300 people with albinism, as well as family members and supporters. We are located in Gabon, in Central Africa, a country at the equator. We mostly run awareness-raising activities, but we also have an important medical activity. In Gabon, there are only 14 dermatologists for a total of 2 million people. In the past 4 years, we have received 94 people with albinism for consultation, out of which 25% had a skin cancer. Half of the people with cancer were treated and cured in our medical practice with prescribed medicines and basic surgery. The other half were taken care of by Gabonese surgeons and oncologists. This was done free of charge to shorten the healthcare pathway. Such a situation shows that a skin cancer can be cured if only it is diagnosed early enough and treated fast enough. That being said, sun prevention remains something extremely important so that the skin is protected from the sun and the incidence of skin cancers in persons with albinism reduces. From the start of its activities in the field of albinism, the Pierre Fabre Foundation has observed that various sun protection products have very different, very variable, and sometimes very weak characteristics. How can sun protection be made widely accessible to all people with albinism? The Pierre Fabre Foundation is offering a bespoke formula for sunscreen that can be produced locally. To develop this formula, we collaborated with the R&D experts of the Pierre Fabre Cosmetics Group. We submitted a list of very strict requirements to the research team. A formula, SPF 50+, easy to produce, with low production costs, stable in hot and humid environments. To learn more, visit fondationpierrefabre.org.
Hola, nos encontramos
Hello, we are at a health center in Jinja in southern Uganda.
aquí a las orillas del...
Here on the shores of Lake Victoria, we are working with SNUPA, a local NGO advocating for the rights of people with albinism in Uganda.
Con su equipo estamos diseñando...
With their team, we are designing a program that will expand their mobile health clinics to 9 districts in the country, with the goal of serving more than 600 people with albinism. These clinics, to be launched in July, will consist of 3 blocks: education and awareness, dermatology consultations and treatment of precancerous lesions, and distribution of sunscreen, wide-brimmed hats, and sunglasses. If you want to be part of this new project, you can do so in the Collaborate section of our website. Thank you very much. In 2022, the biggest achievement of Corbetta DRC, which is an organization fighting against skin cancers in people with albinism, is a partnership that we signed with Beyond Sun Care, the NGO led by Mafalda Soto. Within the framework of this contract, 20 boxes of sunscreen lotions were produced in Spain by Beyond Sun Care and shipped to the DRC.
Le transport a été assuré par Beyond Sun Care jusqu'en RDC.
Corbetta DRC collected them and will distribute them to people with albinism free of charge. I think that within the framework of this contract, it was agreed that the sunscreen will be shipped to the DRC on a regular basis, and people with albinism will benefit from them always for free, thanks to Beyond Sun Care and Corbetta DRC.
Grâce à Beyond Sun Care et Corbetta RDC.
I think that together we can make our voice heard. Happy IAAD.
Huge thanks to all of those who have made this celebration possible. How did you enjoy our programme, Malika Ann?
Well, Oscar, thanks so much for inviting me and for letting me be a part of this. I just think it was really great. I enjoyed it. And I think through the different testimonies and contributions, we've shown that the voices of persons with albinism can and will be heard. Thank you.
Yes, I completely agree, Malika Ann. And I think that our celebration today also showed us something very interesting. It seems to me that, in fact, people with albinism all over the world face quite similar challenges. Do you share this impression, Antoine?
Well, Oscar, I think that we have worked to advocate our human rights and we have lifted each other up. We can do so by uniting, but that doesn't mean that we're all the same. The global albinism community is made up of a tapestry of many shades of white and blonde. We are alike in our albinism, yet different in our individuality.
Thank you, Antoine. These sound like very good concluding words. Indeed, our programme has now come to its end. Thank you all for watching. I hope that you've really enjoyed this online celebration. Let's now close with one more musical performance. The video you're about to see was kindly shared with us by Corporación Albinos Chile, the Chilean albinism group. This song was first released a couple of years ago and is entitled Enjoy Your Colour, and it's performed by the duo Gatos Blancos, the White Cats. Enjoy and goodbye.